Tigercast fans, now hear me out. Now this could be the boldest one that I've done, and I'm prepared to cop quite a bit of heat for it. This is one of those videos where you would maybe consider turning comments off if it was an option. I really don't know how this one's going to go down. It's in relation to the draft period, or draft and trade period, should I say, because that's coming up very, very soon. And we've obviously got some good picks, and there's a couple of different things we can do. Now, the basis of this video is purely on the back of the more recent news coming out today, or in the last 24, 48 hours, that Zach Merrett is quite clearly going to not be at Essendon next year. Like, it would take something remarkable for him to be able to walk back into the club. In fact, I think that bridge has been burnt, and based on the statements released by his teammates and the club sharing those statements, it is quite literally impossible to see him playing for Essendon next year in the current climate. It would take something extraordinary. Now, he's still contracted for another year. He's 29, and he will need to find a new home. Now, Hawthorn have been said to be heavily interested in Zach Merrett. They obviously had the meeting with Sam Mitchell, which is kind of what undone him in a lot of ways. And this is where I think we could play a bit of a part here in the trade period, and look to shake things up with the picks that we've got and add a bit more to our draft hand. Now, again, I'm really scared to go with this because I know how precious draft picks are. Now, the only reason why I've thought about doing this is because, like, this year, there's no Harley Reid, there's no Sam Lawler. I mean, Duff Tytler and Dersma and Sharp, like, good players, but it just doesn't feel like one of these years where it's like, holy shit, must keep these picks for the dear life. Like, I think if there was a year you were going to try and be creative, this is the year you could maybe consider it. And the only other reason why I think we could maybe explore doing something like this is because we had the 8 picks last year. We're already kind of semi-set for a lot of things. And with how even the top 15 are, maybe outside, I mean, look, you'd say Dersma's a clear one, but it's not like superstar golden status, if you know what I mean. But when you talk about the next players in the open draft I'm talking about, so put the academy kids to one side, in the open draft, it feels like you could throw a blanket over about 8 to 9 players, maybe more, and kind of be in the same ballpark no matter who you took. And because of that, I think there could still be some players at some picks if we slide back a little bit, but to gain some extra value in this year and next year. So what I'm proposing in this, now hear me out, it's a twofold thing. So the first trade we could consider, Richmond give up pick number 4 to Hawthorn and receive pick 8 in return for this year's draft and their 2026 first rounder, which might look like pick 14, pick 15, let's say 14, hypothetically. Now, if we're talking about points-wise, that would be out 1,962 points and back in 2,467. So we come out ahead in that scenario. That would then enable Hawthorn to have a higher end first round pick for this year. And they would then have to use a future first pick, I imagine, to try and get a deal over the line with Essendon for Zach Merrett, or they're chucking in a player. Whatever they do, up to them. I don't really care what else they do outside of that. But we could play a part in trying to facilitate getting a higher pick, because I get the vibe Essendon might knock back a pick 8 as a starting point for Zach Merrett. I don't think they would do pick 8 in a 2026 first rounder. I think they're going to want something a bit higher. So maybe our pick 4, because I'm assuming West Coast get pick 2, could come into play there. So the second thing we could then look to do is we could look to give up pick 3. Now hear me out. Stay with me here. To the Suns, who we sort of speculate might be looking to split picks or to creep up in the order for whatever things they might be trying to do. So we could give up pick 3 and get pick number 6, pick 14, and Roses in return, who's been linked to us if he chooses to play for Richmond, of course. There's still that part to play out. Point-wise, that would be 2,178 out and 2,683 in. So points-wise, you covered your bases there. Maybe something else needs to happen on the back end for the Roses part, like a late, I don't know. But he can't be worth a hell of a lot, so surely that could somehow be manufactured, as long as it works out to what Gold Coast need for their bidding and shit like that. So that would be a net result of Richmond out, pick 2 and pick 3, or pick 3 and pick 4, whichever way. I think it's going to be pick 3 and pick 4, if we're being realistic. So Richmond out, pick 3, pick 4. Richmond in, pick 6, pick 8, pick 14, Malcolm Roses Jr., and a 2026 future first rounder from Hawthorn. Now, this could all be rose-coloured glasses, absolute nonsense that other teams won't even consider, and I'm happy to wear that. It was just a hypothetical I was thinking of, like, how can we inject ourselves into other people's business to try and manufacture good outcomes for ourselves? And like I said, I mean, points-wise, if the Hawks want Merritt, they're going to have to do something fancy to be able to get him, and we can maybe help with that. And Gold Coast, well, if they want to, split picks and not have to use as many for points, whatever, we can also play a part in that space. So we'd be shuffling down a few spots, but to start the draft with pick 6 and pick 8, I know that will eventually look like pick 7, 8, and pick 10 or whatever it might be. But again, if you're just talking about the open draft players, the likelihood is there could be a Lindsay there could be a Cumming there, the Grill would probably still be there around the mark. Roby, who's shooting up the draft order, will probably be there. Farrow, Xavier Taylor. Like, there's going to be plenty of players still in that area that are going to be good additions to the side. But again, it probably just depends on how much do you value getting potentially a Sharp, a Duff Tytler. I don't buy into the Duff Tytler one, but let's hypothetically, Sharp, Duff Tytler. Dersma, I don't think we'll get access to, but it's just an interesting way or something to consider. And I think this year feels like it could be a draft year to try and execute that in. And again, there's going to be a lot of people out there that hate this idea, and that's okay. It's just a hypothetical chat. I'm not all saying that we should definitely lock this in and do it. And we may not even get remotely close to doing it, but I just thought it might be fun to flirt with the idea of bringing in 3 picks this year and get a future first for next year to death ride another side, even though the Hawks should be fairly good next year, you would imagine. And then that helps as well next year because you've got Tanner Armstrong, who's going to be most likely in the first round, and we've got Archie Daffy and Jack Lees, a little bit more of an unknown. And then the other wild card to that is we still don't know what's going to play out with the lockout of the father-son and the academy thing. So if that comes into effect, even if it's a top 5 lockout, that puts Cody Walker back on the table. So that would then potentially allow us, in that hypothetical scenario, and the fact that we think we'll finish bottom 4 again, that would put back on the table the ability to get Cody Walker with a top 5 pick if they block out a top 5 matching process. And we could still then get Tanner Armstrong as an academy selection after that with whatever the next pick is that we've got plus other stuff. So it kind of sets us up for 2 years and gives us a good crack at it. And then we get, Roses Jr. as well. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I might have to wear my cricket helmet for this one. I'm prepared to cop heat, but it's a discussion, okay? And we don't want people coming at me aggressively. Just say, look, don't mind the thought process, but probably not going to work because X, Y, and Z. Happy to take feedback on board, but just don't be cruel, is all I'll say. But let us know what you think. Is there any merit into it? Any merit? That's a good pun. Any Zach merit into it? And look, ultimately in Blair we trust, right? The dude's a genius. We're going to build a statue of him at some point, it feels. But it's fun to play these type of hypothetical games. So let us know what you think, and I'll see you for the next one. Go Tigers!